Have you ever heard someone say, sex drive disappears after a certain age? Well, let me ask you this. What if that's completely wrong? What if, instead of fading away, your desire to feel connected, alive, and even sensual actually grows as you age? Sounds surprising, doesn't it? And yet, countless women well into their 80s are now speaking up, saying they feel more sexually alive, emotionally connected, and intimately curious than they ever did in their 40s or 50s. Now, I know for some people that sounds unbelievable. We're taught to think that libido belongs to the young, that passion is for the newly married, and that after menopause, intimacy becomes a forgotten part of life. But the truth is, biology, psychology, and lived experience are telling us a very different story. In this video, we're diving deep into a topic that rarely gets talked about: why some women over 80 say their sex drive is stronger than ever. We'll explore the science behind it, the emotional wisdom that comes with age, and how neurotransmitters like dopamine and oxytocin are still working in your favor. We'll hear the voices of real women, share practical health tips that support desire at any age, and most importantly, we'll break the stigma. Because this isn't about trying to be 30 again. This is about embracing who you are now and realizing that pleasure, intimacy, and connection are not just possible. They might be better than ever. So grab a cup of tea, settle in, and let's talk openly, honestly, and with pride. Because being over 80 and feeling alive is something worth celebrating. 2. The taboo around aging and sexuality. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Society doesn't like to talk about older adults and sex, and especially not women. The moment a woman crosses 60, people start talking about graceful aging, quiet companionship, and rest. But what they don't talk about is passion, intimacy, or desire. Why is that? There's a silent assumption that sexual desire simply dies after menopause. That after a certain age, you stop wanting touch, connection, or the thrill of being wanted. But that's not just wrong. It's harmful. It creates shame. It isolates people. And worst of all, it convinces vibrant, intelligent, emotionally alive women that they're somehow not supposed to feel the way they do. Let's be honest. Many older women stop talking about their desires, not because they lose them, but because they've been told it's not appropriate to have them. But here's the truth. Sexual desire is not a number on a calendar. It's not limited by gray hair or a slower pace. It's part of your human experience. And for many women, once the pressure to look perfect or please others fades, what rises in its place is freedom. To feel, to explore, and to enjoy their bodies in a new and even more powerful way. One 84-year-old woman once told me, "When I was younger, sex felt like a performance. Now it feels like presence." And that right there is the shift. With age comes wisdom, comfort in your own skin, and a deeper appreciation for what intimacy really means. Not just the act, but the connection, the laughter, the memories it brings. The real problem isn't that women lose desire with age. It's that we've lost the language to talk about it. So today, we're bringing that conversation back, boldly, honestly, and without shame. 3. What science says. The biology of libido after 70. Now let's ground this in science. Because while many people still believe that a woman's sex drive disappears after menopause, studies in neuroscience are telling a very different story. In fact, some women over 80 report feeling more alive, more curious, and more sexually satisfied than they did decades ago. And it's not just emotion or memory, it's biology. Let's start with the basics. Your libido, your natural desire for sexual intimacy, is influenced by a mix of hormones, neurotransmitters, emotions, and lifestyle. While it's true that estrogen levels decline during and after menopause, the full story of libido involves far more than just one hormone. One key player is testosterone. Yes, women produce testosterone too, just in smaller amounts. And testosterone doesn't disappear with age. For some women, their body maintains a slow, steady level into older age. This hormone is linked to sexual desire, arousal, and energy. Interestingly, research shows that testosterone remains a significant factor in libido well into a woman's 70s and 80s. In fact, some women who've had their estrogen levels drop dramatically still report a strong sex drive, and that's often thanks to lingering testosterone. Then we have dopamine, the motivation and reward neurotransmitter. Dopamine is responsible for excitement, curiosity, and pleasure-seeking behavior. While dopamine production can slow with age, it also responds incredibly well to lifestyle choices, like regular movement, deep connection, creative expression, and even laughter. In short, the more emotionally and mentally engaged a woman is, the more her dopamine system stays active, which in turn can support a healthy sex drive. Let's not forget oxytocin, the love hormone. Oxytocin is released through touch, hugging, cuddling, and emotional bonding. Older adults who maintain close relationships, hug their grandchildren, dance with friends, or even share daily rituals with a partner often have higher oxytocin levels than those who isolate. And oxytocin, in turn, increases trust, desire, and physical connection. It makes intimacy feel safe and fulfilling, not just physical, but emotional. There's also serotonin, often called the mood stabilizer. Women who take care of their mental well-being through walking, journaling, therapy, or even gardening tend to have more stable serotonin levels. And healthy serotonin supports balanced emotions, better sleep, and a more receptive nervous system. This indirectly supports libido too, especially as stress and anxiety are major mood killers at any age. And here's something fascinating. Some research suggests that postmenopausal brains actually become more efficient in their response to pleasure. That means older women may feel more focused, more attuned, and more emotionally present during intimacy than they did during their younger, more hormonally chaotic years. Finally, let's touch on vascular health and blood flow. Many people assume sexual function is just about hormones, but it's also about circulation. The clitoris and vaginal tissues require blood flow, just like any other erogenous zone. And when women stay active, eat well, and avoid smoking or high alcohol intake, they support the blood vessels that fuel arousal. That's one reason why regular walking or swimming can do more for your sex life than any over-the-counter supplement. So to sum it up, desire doesn't disappear because you age. It shifts, it evolves, and in some cases, it deepens. The body becomes less reactive and more intentional. Intimacy becomes less about performance and more about connection. And the science is clear. Your brain and body are still very capable of pleasure, even in your 80s and beyond. Up next, we'll dive into real voices, what women over 80 are saying about their own experiences. Ready to hear what they've shared? 4. Voices of real women, what they're saying about late life desire. Let's bring this out of the lab and into real life. Because while science provides the foundation, it's the stories, those honest, sometimes surprising, often deeply moving stories that remind us how diverse and alive female sexuality can be, even after 80. Take Jeanette, 84, a retired teacher from Illinois. For decades, she says, she didn't prioritize her sexual needs. Between raising children, caregiving for her aging parents, and navigating a long, often distant marriage, her own intimacy took a back seat. But in the last few years, she says something shifted. I started dreaming more, she says, laughing, romantic dreams. And I'd wake up feeling hungry, not for food, for touch, for connection. Jeanette is not alone. A 2021 survey from a senior health research institute found that 1 in 3 women over 80 reported experiencing regular sexual desire, even if they weren't sexually active. And nearly half of them said their desires had increased compared to their 60s and 70s. Why? Many pointed to fewer distractions, less shame, and the freedom to focus on their own pleasure for the first time in decades. Doris, 87, who lives in Florida, shared, I used to worry what people would think. Now I just think, what do I want? I flirt. I feel sexy. I even bought red lingerie last Christmas, just for myself, and I don't care if anyone sees it or not. And then there's Lucille, 82, who had been widowed for 15 years. I didn't think I'd ever feel that spark again, she admitted. But then I met someone in my poetry class. We talk, we touch, we laugh. It's not about sex the way it used to be. It's about warmth, presence, playfulness. But yes, the drive is still there, maybe more than ever. These voices show us something powerful. Desire doesn't retire. In fact, some women describe this stage of life as a second sexual awakening. Why? No more shame. Many grew up in generations where sex was taboo or surrounded by silence. Now they finally feel free to speak and explore. No more pressure. With menopause long behind and no worries about birth control or performance, there's a relaxation that allows pleasure to emerge naturally. Deeper connection. Whether partnered or solo, many women say they feel more emotionally aware, more open, and more present in their bodies. Of course, not every woman feels this way, and that's okay too. But what's crucial is the realization that there's no expiration date on intimacy or eroticism. And if you're feeling that flame, even if it's just a flicker, you're not strange, not broken, not too old. You're simply human, fully alive. Up next, we'll explore practical ways to honor and support your libido at any age, whether you're currently partnered, dating, or embracing solo intimacy. 5. Practical tips. How to embrace and support late-life libido. So now that we've explored the science and heard real stories from women who are fully embracing their sexuality after 80, let's talk about something even more empowering. What you can do to support your own sexual health, pleasure, and confidence, no matter your relationship status or medical history. Because here's the truth. Your libido isn't just a switch that turns on or off. It's a system. And like any system, it thrives with a bit of attention, nourishment, and care. Here are some practical, senior-friendly ways to keep your sexual energy alive and well into your 80s and beyond. 1. Prioritize emotional safety and comfort. The foundation of a healthy libido, especially in later years, is feeling emotionally secure. Whether you're in a relationship or exploring your sexuality alone, your mind needs to feel safe and calm to allow arousal to build. Practice self-compassion. Let go of outdated beliefs like, I'm too old or no one desires me. Your value isn't tied to youth. Your experience, wisdom, and depth are uniquely attractive. Communicate your needs openly if you're partnered. Intimacy doesn't begin in the bedroom. It starts with connection, honesty, and mutual respect. For solo seniors, building a loving relationship with yourself is just as powerful. Journaling, meditation, or self-touch done with care can awaken dormant feelings of sensuality and peace. 2. Support your body with the right fuel. What you eat matters more than you think. Nutritional deficiencies, especially in older adults, can directly impact libido, mood, circulation, and hormonal balance. Zinc-rich foods like pumpkin seeds, eggs, seafood, and legumes support hormone production and sensitivity. Omega-3 fatty acids found in fatty fish and walnuts reduce inflammation and support dopamine, one of your feel-good neurotransmitters linked to arousal. Vitamin B12 and vitamin D are especially important after 60 for energy, mood, and cognitive clarity, key players in sexual desire. And don't forget hydration. Dehydration can cause fatigue, low mood, and vaginal dryness, all of which dampen libido. Start your day with a big glass of water and herbal teas that support circulation, like ginger or hibiscus. 3. Reignite your senses with gentle movement. You don't need an intense workout routine to feel alive in your body, just some daily movement to increase blood flow, reduce stiffness, and boost mood. Here are some senior-friendly practices that gently stimulate the libido. Gentle yoga, especially hip-opening poses and pelvic floor exercises, can reconnect you with your sensual center. Tai Chi or walking outdoors in fresh air boosts endorphins and increases touch sensitivity through better circulation. Dancing, even alone in your kitchen, wakes up your body and reminds you of your natural rhythm and fluidity. 4. Get to know your changing body with curiosity, not judgment. Bodies change, and that's not a flaw. It's a fact of life. What worked in your 40s may feel different now, and that's perfectly okay. Take time to explore what feels good now. Use touch, massage oils, and textures to find pleasure that suits your current body. Consider using a water-based lubricant to ease vaginal dryness or sensitivity, which is common but easily addressed. Don't be afraid of aids like warming oils, vibrators, or pillows for support. Tools are not just for dysfunction, they're for exploration and empowerment. 5. Tune into the power of your imagination. Fantasy and mental stimulation are powerful, often more than physical touch itself. Reading romantic novels, listening to soft music, or even writing out your fantasies in a journal can awaken desire in beautiful private ways. Your brain is your largest sexual organ. Nourish it with imagination, curiosity, and permission to feel pleasure, even if it's been a while. Bonus, talk to a professional. Yes, even at 85. If you have concerns about libido, hormones, or physical changes, talk to a doctor who respects your sexual health as a vital part of your overall well-being. Some postmenopausal women benefit from low-dose estrogen creams, testosterone therapy, or pelvic floor physical therapy, all of which can enhance sexual function safely under guidance. Sexual wellness is not a luxury, it's healthcare. 6. Why this matters. Redefining aging, desire, and power. We've spent the last few minutes exploring science, stories, and strategies, but let's take a step back and ask, why does this conversation matter so much? Because in many cultures, especially Western ones, aging women have been subtly, and sometimes blatantly, erased from conversations about desire, intimacy, and sensual power. You turn 70 or 80, and suddenly the world assumes you've stopped feeling, stopped longing, stopped dreaming. But you haven't. Here's the truth no one talks about. Your sensuality doesn't have an expiration date. Desire is not a privilege of the young, it's a birthright of being human. When women in their 80s say they feel more sexually alive than ever, they're not just talking about physical urges. They're talking about reclaiming ownership of their bodies, their pleasure, and their voices in a world that often overlooks them. They're talking about freedom. Freedom from insecurity, from shame, from years of putting others first. They've lived through decades of expectations, of holding it together, of doing what was right. And now many of them are saying, it's my turn to feel good, to feel wanted, to want, to explore, to glow from within. Not because anyone gave me permission, but because I finally gave it to myself. This is a new kind of power, not the power to impress others, but the power to feel alive inside your own skin. And that's not something reserved for the young. That's something earned, nurtured, and fully claimed in our later years. So whether you're 68 or 88, partnered or single, just curious or already reconnecting with your desires, know this: you are not alone. You are not broken. And you are not too old. Your libido may change. Your rhythms may shift. Your preferences may evolve. But the capacity to feel joy, connection, and yes, deep pleasure never disappears. It simply waits for space, for care, for courage. And today, perhaps, you've taken one small step toward that space. Let's wrap it up with a thoughtful invite. If this message resonated with you, if it made you feel seen, encouraged, or simply curious, I invite you to share it. Talk to a friend, leave a comment, let someone know they're not the only one feeling this awakening. Let's rewrite the narrative around aging together. And if you haven't yet, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another conversation that honors you, your health, your vitality, your wholeness. Thank you for being here. You are radiant, real, and full of potential. We'll see you in the next one.